Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of Fair Trade Unplugged. And in this podcast, we're just trying to bring news and stories and views and insight about the entire world of fair trade in all its glorious forms in a weekly format. So I'm going to bring in my partner in crime, Jamie McAllister from African Kingdom Superfoods. He has been collaborating closely with me and vice versa. So Jamie, just explain why we've got the guest that we've got this morning.
Right. Yes. Well, we're welcoming Ayo. I've known Ayo for quite a few years. And one of the subjects we've talked a lot about, which I know is very close to his heart, is the African diaspora here in the UK. And basically, when we set up African Kingdom, we saw a great opportunity to work with the African diaspora in terms of promoting the products that we are bringing in from Africa.
Great.
He's a
Well,
champion.
let's bring him in. So just tell us briefly, how did you even meet Ayo?
Hi guys. It's great to be on this platform, and we met through a mutual friend, David, and there's been lots of alignments that have kind of joined us together. But as Jamie said, this whole space of engaging the African diaspora and getting them involved in some of the things we're going to be talking about today has been what's kind of really got us working together. And we're really excited about this.
Brilliant. Well, it's fantastic to have you, Ayo. And thanks so much, Jamie, for introducing us. So, Ayo, let me just ask you a little bit about how did you end up here? I know your background is Nigeria, but that's all we know about you. So tell us what we need to know.
Okay. Well, interestingly enough, I say that I'm 100% Nigerian and 100% British at the same time. I was born in the UK and moved to Nigeria when I was very young, along with my family. Grew up in Nigeria, went to school. Kind of really got immersed into the culture and all the beauty of the relationships and all that entailed. But what it also meant is I got to see firsthand the dysfunctions and all the potential that was not quite being realized. And so as a result of that beneficial view, I think it has had a strong impact in helping me to position myself, locate myself in joining these two worlds on a much more sustainable, respectful, equal basis that is honoring to God.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, isn't it? Because obviously there's a lot of anger and animosity woven into relationships between Britain and its former Commonwealth or even empire connections, and a lot of energy going into hatred and destruction and negativity. And not saying that I don't understand why that might be, but why are you taking this different approach? What's the difference for you?
Well, I mean, the truth of the matter is, there's not so much you can do about the past, but there is shed loads we can do about going forward. Yes, we must look back and learn from history, particularly to ensure that we do not repeat some of the mistakes of history. But what's more important and more powerful is for us to craft a way forward. So I say to friends, associates, I say to them, we cannot afford to spend the vast majority of our energy in being upset about things. Some of it may very well have been the norm for the day and the time. Revelation is progressive, and it's as you go on that you arrive at a place where you realize that this is totally unacceptable. But what we must do importantly is craft a way forward to ensure that our future is great and the future doesn't look back on us as having not played our part or played it well.
Yeah,
And that's probably the philosophy that's guiding the approach to how we go forward.
that sounds amazing. So, what are some of the practical outworkings then of this approach?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wear three caps, so to speak. I'm a social justice advocate. I'm a social entrepreneur. I'm a church leader. I've got all of that blended into one. And if I zero in onto the social entrepreneurship side of my life, I see a massive opportunity in taking advantage of the talents, the skills, the resources, natural human resources that lies on the African continent and using it to make better lives and a better world for people who live on the African continent, as well as people who live in what we call the West. And so it's a big drive for me for us to move away from the construct, the dynamics of aid to doing much better trade. And that's good for everybody. It's good and it's sustainable for the people who are close to the ground on the resources. And it's good for the consumer, it's ethical, and it's honoring for all.
So this is really interesting because I thought this was original to me. When I started We Are Fair Trade, I was saying in my launch webcast, look, I can't see how it's the most beneficial to just sell ingredients from the global south, whether that's Africa or South America or wherever, to Europeans who then turn it into a product and make all the profit. Surely there must be a way of leaving more profit in the source country. Then I came across Jamie, and he was talking about Fairmade, and I thought, yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. So, but that's from my point of view. But are you really convinced that trade can do more than aid?
Absolutely. I mean, let's go to aid first of all. Aid is great, but only so great. And of course, when disasters happen, um, it is imperative on us as mankind, as human beings, to come to the aid of people who are in need. But it's not meant to be an ongoing, sustainable way of life where that is the way to go forward. You want the people who you've come to their aid to get on their feet and be able to get back and sustain themselves and become resilient and all of that good stuff. And the truth of the matter is, when we look at aid in itself as a construct, it's got so many fault holes all over it. And oftentimes, when you look into the details of the dynamics of aid, you'd find that a good amount of it is probably not even leaving the host country. So, yes, you may have these headline figures of, oh, this is how much of GDP or so many million or billions of pounds or dollars that have gone to aid. But I mean, we've got to ask the other side of the question. How much transformation is it making on the ground? How much sustainable transformation? But aid on this other side is it's quite obvious. People are able to engage in meaningful work. They're able to get honor and value for the work that they're doing. Of course, they may need some support in terms of, financial guarantees and financial environments to set up the infrastructure to
Sure.
be able to ensure that the aid is operating optimally. But that is strategic aid. But
Yeah.
the end of the day, if people are able to make things, add value to the things, keep more of the value for themselves, employ, create jobs employ people, I assure you that is providing so much more than aid to so many more people. Is only going to grow, and eventually those people, those communities will be standing on their feet fully. And we're already seeing that in some of the exploratory work that we're doing. But my appeal to the British public really is, if we turn our thinking more into pushing aid through trade, we will find that it is so much more beneficial.
Yeah. It's interesting because in my previous life, I was a business consultant flying all around the world telling large companies how they should be running their teams. But we used a training program that referred to a guy called Mohammed Yunus, who started something called the Grameen Bank, the village bank in Bangladesh. He was a professor in the States and was shocked that his entire village back home was in poverty. And when he went round all of them saying, how much money do you need to get out of poverty? It's a small village, but the entire capital requirement was $50.
Wow.
And he made a statement there. He said, most people, well, very few, if any people, are poor by choice. And for most of them, they know how to not be poor anymore, but they can't get access to capital and they can't get access to a market big enough to sustain their family or their village, or by extension, their nation. So it makes a lot of sense to me. And again, in my previous life, I was doing relief and development work in the Middle East and saw some of these same issues. So I know you've come up with a tangible product. In fact, I think we can even have a look at it. So these are just two of the products that you're representing, aren't they? The pineapple and the mango. So have you started this company, Real Fruit, or where's the origin of it?
So the origin is in Nigeria, which is a nation that I come from. I'm not the owner or starter of the company. It is one example of great products that are produced and packaged to global standards. That is a perfect example of the sorts of products where value has been added to in Africa, that is a healthy snack that's beneficial to us in our day-to-day life, which we should be pumping our resources towards, and we should be buying and producing. With my social justice hat on, I'm in the process of deploying a direct-to-consumer platform where products like these Real Fruit, dried mangoes, dried pineapples can be sold on, and a whole host of other products that are similarly well produced to global standards, really. And just knowing that not only are you doing health benefit, giving yourself the health benefits, you're also transforming the lives of families and communities in the global south.
Nice. So of what we're seeing on the screen here, because these are two products that you've sent some samples to us, and I'm in the process of getting taste sessions run, just see if people like the product. But what we're looking at here, is this entirely made in Africa somewhere, or is this being shipped over here and packaged here, or what? How much of this is actually made in Africa?
This is a beautiful story of 100% made in Africa. The young lady who set up this company spent some time living in South Africa and then went back home to Nigeria and started this a few years ago. They've expanded their operation. They've moved into a place called Ogun State, a place called Abeokuta in Nigeria. They've got a massive warehouse, which they've kitted up. employing lots of local families right across the value chain in producing this. Each one of these products that you buy and consume is transforming the lives of so many people. And to think about the fact that the minute those people are living settled, growing lives, they do not have to think of jumping on a boat that is crossing the channel and coming into our aisles. They can contribute, they can send their children to school, to create new vaccines and new innovations that are required. When we think about the true value of investing in fair trade, fair made products, it's a total no-brainer.
I've got 5 daughters, and I know my top priority is their well-being, you know, and I'm fortunate that I didn't have to think about emigrating or whatever. I'm in a country that's relatively economically stable, that's got opportunities, and you can understand why everybody wants that for their family. That's a parent's duty, isn't it? So I can understand the motive a lot of times. But if it was really possible to say, but actually we can have that in our own home country, of course, that must be massively beneficial. But it just feels like a huge task, you know, like how many packets of dried mango do we need to sell so that, you know, a reasonable number of people can live from the farming or the processing or the package printing or whatever. So is this really doable? I mean, it's idealistically, it's fantastic, you know, and I love the idea of that. I don't want to be engaging in toxic aid. I'd love to be doing, you know, really fruitful trade. But the sort of cynical part in me thinks, yeah, but is this just a pipe dream, or is there some serious chance that we really could, in this case, say, make a significant difference to people's prospects in, let's just say, one town or one village in Nigeria? Is that really doable?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I like the term fruitful trade. Might use that again.
I need to copyright that straight away. Yep.
Yeah, get in there quick. The truth of the matter is, at whatever scale this is done, it is making a difference. Can we scale it to make community-wide difference, statewide difference? Absolutely. We've got examples of big entrepreneurs who, in a certain town or district, are the major owner of employer of labor. There is a big conglomerate called Dangote, and there's a part of the Benue state that's part of the food basket of Nigeria where they produce tomatoes. And to imagine the amount of lives feeding off this one operation is difficult to take in. Now, come back to these fruitful products. Even at what is already a much bigger scale than anybody else is doing dry fruit at, we're already changing lives. Now, can you imagine when everyone watching this podcast and their families suddenly get it and realize that this is a no-brainer, it's a win-win-win? At that point in time, you're now improving the lives of more people. Yep. So yes, it sounds like it's just a great idealistic thing, but even at the idealistic level, it's already transforming lives. The minute it goes beyond that, by the time we get finances into it so that they can expand operations, it's transforming more lives.
Yeah, and I think where we see We Are Fair Trade and Jamie with African Kingdom is there needs to be a shop window, doesn't there, somewhere where people can actually encounter these products. And that's what you're doing with your own website. That's what I'm trying to do with We Are Fair Trade.
If we do have a decent interest and demand for it, we would immediately be able to get things on the sea route supply chain and have them in the UK in 4 weeks or less.
Okay,
So
fantastic. Well, that's what I'm hoping for, definitely.
yes,
Ayo,
yes,
it's been fascinating. I suspect we could talk for hours, but we don't have hours. But it's so good to see your insights and to understand a little bit of the challenge, and also just to be reassured that spending money on Fairmade products, it's really making a difference. That's what I always want to hear. So I really appreciate that. Thank you, and thanks for giving us your time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Mark.
All the best.